Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Have you ever paused to consider how intent is the mechanics through which spirit transforms itself into material reality?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty profound idea from Deepak Chopra, and it perfectly sets the stage for our deep dive today.
Mm,
We're about to plunge into a fascinating world where the seemingly mundane aspects of your life can actually be infused with extraordinary personal power.
indeed. And our guide for this exploration is the renowned esoteric scholar and author Lon Milo DuQuette. We're looking specifically at his remarkable book, Homemade Magic, The Musings and Mischief of a Do-It-Yourself Magus.
That's the one. Our mission today is to uncover how magic isn't some obscure art, requiring secret societies or elaborate, inaccessible rituals.
Right.
Instead, Duquette reveals it as a deeply personal journey of self-transformation and conscious living. And it's accessible to anyone right where you are, right now.
Exactly. So we'll be sifting through the insights you've shared from his work, pulling out the most potent ideas that can truly inspire your own unique magical adventure.
Okay, let's get into it.
To begin, maybe let's talk a bit about the man himself, Lon Milo DuQuette. He's known for being incredibly approachable, witty, and surprisingly relatable, especially for someone in the often, let's say, intimidating world of Western magic.
Yeah, he definitely comes across that way.
And his background is quite distinctive. He was actually a singer-songwriter and recording artist back in the late 60s and early 70s. He made his living through music before transitioning into his prolific writing career.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that about the music career.
Yeah, and now he's the author of 16, I think, critically acclaimed books on magic and the occult. He really embodies that title, Do-It-Yourself Magus. He seems to have truly lived this whole philosophy.
He certainly has. And his core philosophy, it seems, is that all magic is inherently homemade. So while there's formal training available through structured groups like the OTO, that's Ordo Templi Orientis, or the Golden Dawn, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, both really influential Western magical orders.
Right, the big names.
Duquette emphasizes that the true work, the real core of it, is always executed by, for, and through the agency of you alone.
That's a key point. He says the ultimate goal in magic isn't just to do magic, but to be a magician. And here's where it gets really transformative, I think. The only thing a magician can truly change with magic is, well, the magician himself.
That really flips the script, doesn't it? It powerfully counters that typical perception of, casting spells on external things, shifting the focus entirely to internal transformation.
Absolutely. And a powerful insight Lon provides that Duquette insists that no matter what your unique life circumstances might be the hand you've been dealt, so to speak, that makes up exactly the hand you need to play to become a magician.
So no excuses then.
Pretty much. You don't need a guru or a specific magical order or some adept mentor whispering secrets in your ear. You are, and you always will be, your own universe. He says you are a homemade magic school with one teacher and one student.
I like that framing.
Yeah. And even if you someday come under the tutelage of a great master, he says, you'll still face the same obstacles and challenges. And you'll still be required to do all the magic yourself. It really makes magic a solo act. Your temple, your workshop, your universe, they're your own body, brain, and soul.
Okay. So if magic is this intensely personal journey, how does one even begin? Duquette starts with that classic philosophical question, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think of the caterpillar in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, asking Alice that very question. And of course, that ancient mystery phrase, know thyself.
Exactly. And for magicians, the ultimate destination of this whole journey is described as supreme enlightenment, which is, a complete identity with universal consciousness.
Right, the big goal.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you even embark on that journey when you don't fully know the you who's supposed to be embarking? That seems like a catch-22.
It does, doesn't it? And this is where Lon offers a really provocative idea. He says, true self-realization is likely to be the very last thing that's ever going to happen to you.
Huh. Okay, so not something to expect overnight then.
Definitely not. And this presents that fascinating paradox. You need a you to take the journey, but you don't fully know that you yet. So what's the solution? He says, quite simply, pretend you know who you are.
Fake it till you make it, basically.
In a way, yes. That approach is absolutely fundamental to homemade magic. Lon shares a really personal anecdote from 1971. He received his AMORC correspondence course, that's the ancient mystical order Rosicrucians, another Rosicrucian group.
Okay.
And he was alone in his bedroom wearing his karate gi, of all things, and he underwent this self-initiation. He describes being profoundly sincere and just completely open to the moment, allowing the printed words on the page to transport him to his own inner temple. And that sincerity, he claims, that openness, transformed it into a true initiation.
Wow, the karate gi detail really brings it home. It makes it sound almost deceptively simple. But what makes that internal commitment truly magical? Because for you, our listener, if all true initiations are self-initiations, then the application is just your sincerity.
Right.
And the fee is your desire and your ability to be open to the moment.
That's it.
So it makes you think, what might your own little shove be? What could jumpstart your waking up process? It doesn't have to be some grand ceremony, clearly.
Absolutely not. And to help with that pretending, that stepping into a role, DuQuette introduces the concept of a magical motto. It's like crafting a new homemade identity. He shares how his own father always insisted he never change or alter his magic name, Lon Milo. And think about it, the sound of your own name, it evokes your self-awareness, doesn't it?
Yeah, when someone calls your name, you instinctively respond, identify yourself.
Exactly. You say in your soul, here I am. A magical motto should do the same thing. Wake you up to who you're pretending to be, at least for now.
Okay, so what's the deeper significance then of crafting this new identity? What does a magical motto actually do for you on this path?
Well, in Lon's view, a motto represents your current understanding of the universe and reality, or expresses the loftiest goals and aspirations you have right at this moment. And he stresses that it's perfectly okay for it to be a bit pretentious or even sound silly at first, because DuQuette assures us it will evolve as you grow. It's not set in stone.
That takes some pressure off.
It does. He gives some wonderful examples, like his wife Constance's mottos. They apparently range from beauty, growth, balance, which sounds quite lovely, to the rather punk-sounding sister so what, then just the number 83, which has Kabbalistic significance from Aleister Crowley's works.
Right, numbers can hold a lot of meaning in these systems.
Definitely. Then she moved through mottos like fruitless love and aimless toil, and then the disturbingly profound-sounding I am finished and currently glory to God.
Wow, that's quite a journey just in mottos.
Isn't it? What's truly striking here is the clear evolution, the profound self-reflection that's evident in these changes. This isn't just about picking a cool name. It's like a living roadmap of your evolving understanding of yourself and the universe. It becomes a powerful tool for self-reflection that grows with you.
And Lon's own journey with mottos sounds equally insightful. You mentioned his first attempt wasn't even a motto, but the number 444.
That's right. Derived from the Kabbalistic numerology of his full name. Kabbalah, for anyone unfamiliar, is that system of Jewish mysticism exploring hidden meanings in numbers, letters, the interconnectedness of things, often visualized as the tree of life. So 444 gave him a sense of identity.
Okay.
His first formal motto came in 1976. Liberty, mastery, dignity. He even put it in French, liberté, maîtrise, dignité. He chose it partly because the initials LMD also correspond to the Hebrew letter lamed, which is associated with the tarot trump justice, representing balance.
Layered meanings.
Very much so. But then a year later, feeling humbled by his probationary period in a magical order, he chose purity of aspiration, pureté de l'aspiration. After that came mottos like Hoth Ada, which he says is Enochian for true worshiper of the highest. Enochian being that complex magical system, supposedly revealed by angels to Dr. John Dee back in Elizabethan times.
Right, the angelic language.
Then his motto evolved to Adeo Sat Bene, which is Latin for so far so good. He apparently thought that one might last him his entire incarnation.
Clearly not.
No. His current motto, Only Love Is, Seul l'amour est, reflects a really profound simplicity and understanding, I think. This whole evolution just highlights that ongoing journey of self-reflection and growth that seems inherent in magical practice.
This connection to the bigger picture, constantly evolving one's understanding of self, that's really powerful. It shows that identity in magic isn't static at all. It's this fluid, dynamic process of becoming. So for you, our listener, here's a challenge DuQuette basically throws down. Create your own motto. Right now, just start pretending. And once you have it, he presents a homemade oath in the book. It's simple, but it sounds profoundly powerful when you recite it alone and with full magical intent.
Yeah,
Ready?
let's hear it.
I, your magical motto, in the presence of all I hold sacred, do hereby accept absolute responsibility for my own condition of darkness and ignorance, and solemnly acknowledge and declare that ultimately only I can bring myself to light.
Wow.
Yeah. That's presented as the very first step in self-initiation, just taking full ownership of your path right there.
Okay, so that self-initiation, taking that oath, really sets the stage for the next critical aspect of homemade magic, The tools of transformation. These are often referred to as magical weapons.
Right, the ones you often see depicted on the Magician Tarot card.
Right.
The disc, the sword, the cup, and the wand.
Exactly those. But the question DuQuette poses is, what are these weapons really beyond just their physical forms? What's their deeper significance?
A powerful insight Lon provides here is that they aren't just objects. They carry immense symbolic significance. They connect to the four elements, earth, air, fire, water, and crucially, to the four parts of the human soul, according to Kabbalistic tradition.
Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. So the wand, associated with fire, represents pure will, that universal life force. It's the magician's will, often linked to the Hebrew letter yod. The cup, linked to water, embodies soul intuition, profound understanding, the heart emotions. That's often associated with the Hebrew letter hey.
Okay.
Then the sword, tied to air, signifies the intellectual and reasoning process, the mind, imagination. That's linked to the Hebrew letter vav. And finally, the disc, or pentacle, representing earth, symbolizes the material universe and the physical body. That's connected to the final hey in the divine name, yod hey vav hey.
Got it. So each tool maps onto an element and a part of the soul, or psyche. And the core idea here, Lon emphasizes, is that these objects aren't merely tools. They are solid, tangible, and objective articles that actually represent intangible, but very real, inward, subjective forces, powers, and principles.
So they're like physical anchors for internal state.
Precisely. And because of that, they must be homemade or obtained and consecrated in a very personal and special manner. This means it's not about going out and buying expensive, elaborate tools off the shelf. It's about imbuing objects, maybe even simple ones, with profound personal meaning and dedicating them to your great work, that pursuit of your true will and spiritual purpose.
Okay, let's start with the magic disc then, also known as the pentacle. DuQuette describes it as your "you are here" map. It's like the blueprint of your immediate environment. He says it represents the lowest rung on the ladder of consciousness, but also provides the firm foundation upon which we must stand to direct the forces of nature. It's your starting point, your grounded reality.
Right. And to expand on that, the disc expresses where you are pretending to be right now and also where you are intending to go. You can't truly know your absolute cosmic position, of course. So rituals like the pentagram and hexagram, those geometric figures used in ceremonial magic for invoking or banishing, they force the magician to expand his or her consciousness, to encompass a larger universe, even if it's a pretend one for now.
So it's a tool for expanding your mental map of reality.
Exactly. Lon's own pentacle sounds quite intricate. He says it symbolizes three absolutes: Nut, the infinite out, Hadit, the infinite in, and Rahur Kut, everything in between. These are central deities in Thelema, Aleister Crowley's system.
Okay.
These concepts are connected by a cross representing four trees of life emanating from Kether, the primal one. The key is the design should represent your understanding of the universe, however simple or complex.
Practically speaking then, how do you go about making one? What does he suggest?
Traditionally, he says it should be about 8 inches in diameter, half an inch thick, round, flat, and heavy, really emphasizing that groundedness and stability. Gold is ideal, apparently, but maybe not practical for most. Beeswax is highly recommended because it's inexpensive, easy to work with, smells wonderful, and crucially, it's considered a living substance and even food of the magician.
Interesting. And how do you get the design on it?
You can draw your design on paper first, then maybe pierce it into the wax with a needle or carve it carefully with a compass point. But if you're less artistically inclined, he suggests a simple wooden disc with a design printed out and stuck on with spray adhesive, then sealed, works perfectly fine too.
That sounds more achievable for some of us.
Absolutely. And what's truly striking, again driving home the homemade concept, is his list of improvised on-the-road pentacles. He says he's used everything from a coin, an Ace of Discs tarot card, his wristwatch, a cocktail coaster, a salt packet, a CD or DVD, even a tortilla, pita bread, or a pancake.
A pancake pentacle. I love it.
Right. He emphasizes that any material object you choose to be your pentacle is your pentacle. The magic comes from you and your intention, not the object itself.
So this raises an important question for you, our listener. How would you design your own pentacle? Even if it's something simple, like a yin-yang symbol, how could it represent your current understanding of the universe and your place within it?
It's a great reflective exercise.
Okay, next up, the magic sword. This tool represents the analytical faculty, the intellect. It's attributed to the element of air and signifies the mind and imagination.
The power of thought.
It's often said that the sword bears a word that represents the magician's universe, your power of thought in clear expression.
Lon shares a really compelling personal anecdote about acquiring his own sword. It wasn't some ancient artifact. It was a modest Masonic Knights Templar ceremonial sword. But he acquired it in a deeply significant way. It was back in 1978, Christmas time, and he was financially strapped.
Been there.
Yeah. He sacrificed his most prized possession, a beautiful 1968 C.F. Martin D28 guitar. Apparently, it even had a custom mother-of-pearl inlay of the number 93, a really significant number in thelemic numerology.
Wow, that must have been hard.
He describes it as heartbreaking. He went to a music store needing cash for family gifts. The owner initially refused to buy it outright, but eventually traded him a new Gibson J45 and gave him $350 cash. Lon later sold the Gibson too. But that act of sacrifice, the emotional weight of giving up something so precious, that's what made the simple Masonic sword truly magical for him. It became his Excalibur.
That's incredible.
It symbolized his shift from focusing on music to focusing on magic and finding his true magical voice, the word of his great work. He adds a nice coda. He later won a new Alvarez Masterworks guitar in a songwriting contest, which brought his journey kind of full circle.
What a story. It really illustrates the depth of personal connection needed for these tools to be effective, doesn't it? It's not just about the object.
Not at all.
So for the listener thinking about getting their own sword, Lon advises selecting a ceremonial sword that's lightweight. Double-edged is traditional for symbolic reasons, not literal danger. It should be pointed, but not dangerously sharp. Remember, it's a symbolic weapon for spiritual adversaries, not physical ones.
Good distinction.
And importantly, it needs to feel balanced in your hand.
Right, that personal connection again. And if you're on the road or just starting out, improvised options are perfectly valid. He suggests things like a plastic cocktail sword, a hotel silverware knife, even a fan like you might see in Eastern traditions, or just folding a sheet of paper can work, or even a tiny switchblade.
So versatile.
The key takeaway, again, is that any material object you choose to be your sword is your sword. The power comes from your intention and your connection to it, not the material itself. It's about how you imbue it with meaning.
Okay, moving on to the Magick cup. This beautiful instrument represents profound and perfect emptiness. It's connected to the element of water, and thus to soul, intuition, the heart, and our emotions.
The receptive principle.
Exactly. It often partners with the wand, much like the moon partners with the sun, representing receptivity, understanding, holding potential.
And the functions of the cup extend beyond just ritual use, right? He links it to purification, like in ritual bathing or wudu in Islam or the Jewish mikveh. He also links it quite directly to sexuality, calling it the clearest, simplest magical metaphor for the mechanics of creation, which is quite evocative.
It is. His own cup, he says, is a simple brass chalice. It was a gift he's used for every Gnostic Mass he's performed since 1978. The Gnostic Mass being a central ritual in Athena, often involving a chalice.
So a long history with that one object.
Yes, and what's truly striking here is what he calls his perpetual consecration ritual for it, simply polishing the tarnished brass.
Polishing it? How is that a ritual?
He transforms this mundane chore into alchemy, prayer, worship, devotion, adoration, love. He visualizes each smudge on the brass as representing karmic debts, stains upon my soul, which he polishes away with focused intent until, in his mind, he holds the Holy Grail itself.
That's actually quite profound. Taking a simple, repetitive task and making it a magical act of self-purification.
Exactly. It shows how everyday actions can become magical practices. Now, for those looking to make or select their own cup, traditional materials include silver because of its association with the moon and water. Glass, brass, pewter, or even wood are also options, with colors like blue, silver, and sea green being appropriate.
Any specific making techniques mentioned?
He mentions Jack Parsons, the rocket scientist and occultist. His method was apparently pounding a silver disc into a bowl shape and adding 3 crescent moonlights. A truly homemade approach.
Definitely hands-on. And improvised cups.
Of course. On the road, DuQuette has used a wine or cocktail glass, a coffee cup, a bottle, or even just a bottle cap. The principle remains consistent. Any material receptacle you choose to be your cup is your cup.
It really reinforces that the power is within you, your intent and focus, not inherent in the object itself.
Precisely. Finally, we come to the magic wand. This represents pure will, the universal life force. It's seen as the instrument of fatherhood, of creation, of projecting intent outwards.
The active principle, complementing the cup's receptive nature.
Right. DuQuette describes it as representing the pure one-pointed purpose for which you have incarnated. Your true will, essentially.
And a key insight Lon provides is that finding that true sacred duty is what DuQuette calls the great work. But he doesn't suggest waiting until you've perfectly figured it out. He encourages listeners to just start pretending with any pointy thing until they discover their true will.
Start pretending. That theme again. Does he share stories about his own wands?
Oh, yes. His first wand, cut from an almond tree, met a rather ignominious end. He accidentally sat on it and broke it after a dramatic 2-week consecration ritual that apparently even involved the fire department showing up at one point.
Oh, no. After all that work.
I know. He then apparently transferred the magical charge to a simple practice wand by burning the pieces of the broken one in a ritual and basically shouting, "Get in there, goddammit."
Uh-huh. Very practical magic.
Isn't it? He also mentions having a hazel wand that he filched, as he puts it, from Boleskine House, Aleister Crowley's infamous former home on Loch Ness in Scotland. He connects this to biblical traditions, too, like Moses' staff being made of almond wood, and its Kabbalistic significance, the Hebrew word for almond enumerating to 463, which links to concepts on the Tree of Life. He even notes how a song he co-wrote, "Touch Me With Your Hazel Wand," became the namesake for his publishing company.
These anecdotes really make the concept so much more relatable and, well, human.
They do. For the practical side of making your own wand, DuQuette advises using wood, especially almond or hazel if possible. It should ideally be cut with a single blow on an auspicious date, adding that ritual element. The ideal dimensions are from your fingertip to your elbow in length, and about the thickness of your little finger. After cutting, you might need to straighten it using a homemade jig. Then strip the bark by hand, sand it smooth, and seal it. He prefers natural oils like olive or almond oil over paint or commercial sealers.
Okay, seems straightforward enough. And improvised wands for the road.
Absolutely. In keeping with the theme, DuQuette improvises with things like a cocktail swizzle stick, a wooden or plastic coffee stirrer, a pencil or pen, a chopstick, or even a toothbrush.
A toothbrush wand. Brilliant.
It just reinforces that the tool is merely a focal point for your will, which is always with you. The power resides in your focused intent, not the object.
Okay, so once you've crafted or obtained these magical weapons, homemade or improvised, the final, crucial step is consecration. DuQuette calls it a graduation ceremony, signifying they're ready for service in your magical life.
Right. But this raises an important question. What makes a consecration actually effective? Is it just saying some words?
Not according to DuQuette. He stresses that sincerity is absolutely key. The ritual is worthless, ineffective, and a complete waste of time if it doesn't actually mean something to you, unless it's uniquely your own, unless it is homemade.
Homemade sincerity.
Exactly. He draws on a formula from Crowley and the Golden Dawn tradition, the formula of the neophyte, which involves treating the object like a candidate undergoing an initiation.
Okay, how does that work?
The steps involve keeping the object wrapped in black cloth in symbolic outer darkness, then bringing it formally into your temple, which could just be your bedroom or living room, defined as sacred space. You then ritually examine and inspect the object, checking its readiness. Then you cleanse and purify it, maybe physically cleaning it thoroughly, then sprinkling it with water, symbolizing spiritual cleansing.
Makes sense.
Then comes the invocation. This involves making a symbolic gesture or saying a prayer to the highest divine power you are capable of imagining, even if he notes that highest power is just yourself or your higher self.
So it's adaptable to different belief systems.
Very much so. You might also choose to evoke elemental spirits associated with the tool salamanders for the fiery wand, undines for the watery cup, sylphs for the airy sword, and gnomes for the earthy pantacle. Perhaps using prayers like those written by Eliphas Levi, a famous 19th century French occultist.
Adding layers of symbolism.
Right. Finally, you can actually give the weapon a magical name, anoint it with a sacred oil. He says even simple olive oil works fine, and place it in a new storage bag, ideally self-sewn. He suggests traditional colors: red for the wand, blue or silver for the cup, yellow for the sword, and green for the disc.
It sounds like a very personal and meaningful process.
That's the whole point. The overall meaning here is powerful. The magic comes from you, not the material. The priceless magical moments are found in the personal effort you put into the creation and the dedication.
So it's the doing that matters.
Exactly. And DuQuette encourages frequent use and maintenance of these tools, like polishing the cup, seeing these actions themselves as magical meditations of the highest order. He even jokingly adds, and please try to not accidentally sit on them. A little callback to his own unfortunate wand incident.
Good advice.
It's all about integrating this practice, these tools, into your daily life.
Which brings us perfectly to part 3, living the magic. How do you actually integrate this into the everyday? Lon and Constance DuQuette have a really unique approach to what they call a magical lodge. It's literally their own home. Haruraha Lodge, OTO, chartered way back in 1978.
Their home is the lodge.
Yes. And what's truly striking here is the sheer scale of their home-based operations over the years. He writes that over 35 years, their modest rented house, our living room, our dining room, our bedroom, our garage, our backyard, has been abbey, temple, monastery, preceptory, cathedral, rectory, classroom, lecture hall, chapel, profess house, initiation chamber, magic space, holy ground.
Wow, that's dedication.
Isn't it? They've hosted over 1,700 classes, hundreds of initiations, Gnostic masses, public rites, plays, celebrations, often with furniture doing double duty, being rearranged constantly. He describes the environment as Beatrix Potter meets H.P. Lovecraft, which paints quite a picture.
It certainly does. It really contrasts with the typical perception of, secret, perhaps spooky occult lodges.
Completely. And the implication for you, the listener, is clear. Your home, too, can be a sacred space. It doesn't require a special building.
Lon Milo DuQuette also makes a really profound assertion. He says he didn't truly learn magic until I started to teach magic.
That's interesting. How so?
He explains that the act of teaching forced him to really learn and articulate concepts clearly, which in turn revealed to him what he didn't know he didn't know. You know how teaching often solidifies your own understanding?
Absolutely. You have to simplify and structure things.
Exactly. He describes their Monday night magic class. It's open to anyone, completely free, though donations are encouraged, and incredibly consistent. It's held weekly, usually for 90 to 120 minutes, and apparently it's been running for over 35 years with very few missed sessions.
That's amazing commitment. And he offers tips for others wanting to start something similar, right?
He does. Building on that thought, DuQuette offers really practical tips for anyone considering starting their own homemade magic class. Things like maintain consistency with a regular schedule, be punctual, start and end on time, cater to both novices and adepts simultaneously, which sounds tricky but important.
Keeping everyone engaged.
Right. Also, never charge money for the teaching itself. Keep your house clean, seeing that as part of the magic of the space. Provide simple refreshments like tea, but maybe avoid snacks to save time and mess.
Practical stuff.
Very. Engage the class through things like round-robin reading or having a dictionary volunteer. Encourage group participation in rituals. And crucially, he says, do magic. Just don't talk about it all the time. Actually make tools. Do scrying sessions, that's divination, using a reflective surface, or do chanting together.
Getting hands-on.
Yeah. He also advises allowing for fun and silliness, letting member interest guide the subject matter somewhat, but the leader must maintain leadership. It's not a democracy, he says quite firmly.
Okay, so structure is still needed.
Definitely. Be humble, be prepared to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Never be degree exclusive by withholding advanced information if someone asks, answer clearly. And a final, rather blunt but very important ethical tip. Thou shalt not hit upon thy class members.
Wise words.
Indeed. This whole approach offers a really tangible way for listeners to deepen their own understanding and potentially build a supportive community around these practices.
That's certainly a comprehensive guide to building a magical community right in your living room. But how does one navigate parenting within such a magical household? That seems like it could present unique challenges. DuQuette touches on this, citing Khalil Gibran's famous quote, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself."
A beautiful quote to start with. How did they apply that philosophy?
Well, Lon and Constance's approach to raising their son, Jean-Paul, in this magical household sounds quite illuminating. They firmly believe children are inherently magical beings who actually choose their parents. Based on that, they explicitly avoided any kind of indoctrination. Instead, they encouraged Jean-Paul to develop his own spiritual worldview, exposing him to a broad spectrum of ideas without any pressure to conform to their beliefs.
That sounds very respectful. How did he respond?
Apparently, Jean-Paul was, by all accounts, a good sport about the whole thing. He participated willingly in rites. Lon mentions him playing the sun god in a rite of Sol ceremony, helped move furniture for ceremonies, and grew up sharing his home with countless lodge guests and students.
Quite an unusual upbringing.
Definitely. DuQuette's suggestions for parents interested in this path include: don't make magic seem spooky or overly mysterious. Instead, present it as intelligent, fun, logical, beautiful, and above all, normal.
Normalizing it within the family context.
Yes. Don't act persecuted or suggest that what you're doing is dangerous, sinful, or illegal. Don't expect young children to understand complex metaphors literally. And maybe most importantly, set a positive example. If magic genuinely makes you happy and centered, let them see that positive effect. And forgive imperfections in yourself and others.
That's really thoughtful advice. It raises an important question for you, the listener. How could you integrate your own spiritual path, whatever it may be, into your family life in a positive and empowering way without being dogmatic?
A crucial consideration for many. So what about when you're not at home, not in your dedicated magical space, or with your family? DuQuette makes the powerful point that, for a magician, there are no mundane events. Even things like airport delays, he notes, can be transformed into opportunities for spiritual practice.
No downtime for the magician, then. How does he do that?
He describes creating his hotel room homemade temple using just a deck of tarot cards. He asserts that the deck itself is a magic temple, indeed an entire universe in a box.
The tarot as a portable temple. I like that. How does he set it up?
What's fascinating here are the specifics. For an elemental temple, which focuses on the building blocks of existence, the microcosm, he places the Ace of Swords, representing air, in the east, the Ace of Wands, fire, in the south, Ace of Cups, water, in the west, and Ace of Discs, earth, in the north. Simple, but sets the space.
Okay, mapping the elements to the directions.
Exactly. But he also describes a planetary or zodiacal temple, which takes a macrocosmic view. Here, he projects himself as the sun at the center and places the Ace of Wands, linked to cardinal fire, Aries, in the east, Ace of Discs, cardinal earth, Capricorn, in the south, Ace of Swords, cardinal air, Libra, in the west, and Ace of Cups, cardinal water, Cancer, in the north.
Aligning with the cardinal points of the zodiac.
Precisely. He even mentions that his own tarot ceremonial magic deck, which he co-created, conveniently displays the Enochian elemental tablets on the aces, making them perfect tools for specific Enochian rituals right there in the hotel room.
It's quite detailed for a portable setup.
It is. And what's truly remarkable is his method for creating a full magic circle, using just the 36 small cards of the tarot, that's the 2s through 10s of each suit.
How do those form a circle?
These 36 cards correspond to the 36 decans of the zodiac. The decans are 10-degree divisions of each zodiacal sign, so they map out the entire zodiacal year. When you lay these 36 cards out counterclockwise in their correct astrological order, they literally form a magic circle representing the cosmos. He details how the cards are assigned to the cardinal, fixed, and immutable signs.
That sounds like quite an exercise.
It is. He says the simple act of taking a shuffled deck, which he likens to your unorganized life, and consciously reordering it into perfect astrological order is, for him, a magical exercise of the highest order, a meditation in itself.
That really highlights that magic is always accessible, doesn't it? Even without elaborate tools or a dedicated physical space, your current circumstances, even a hotel room, can always be your perfect temple if you approach them with the right intention.
Exactly. Your mind and your tools, even simple ones, are always with you.
Now, imagine living this kind of magical life intensely, day in and day out, with another magician. That sounds like it could be. Interesting. Lon Milo DuQuette gives us a glimpse into his own 47-year marriage with Constance. He even shares a short poem he wrote called A Marriage Secret, which ends with a punchline. Agree that one of you will know everything and the other will always be right.
Which one is which?
He doesn't explicitly say, but based on his descriptions, it sounds like their roles complement each other perfectly. Lon brings the facts, the Kabbalistic knowledge, the objective observations. Constance, he says, has an immediate grasp of the deeper spiritual dimensions and philosophical truth.
So head and heart working together.
Seems like it. Lon admits, I may know everything, but she is always right. He explains that their arguments, though apparently frequent, ultimately produce profound serenity and create a world rare and wonderful, allowing them both to do their individual great work while sharing their lives.
That's a nice way to frame productive conflict.
It is. Their collaboration is also evident in the practical running of the lodge, with Lon crediting Constance with doing 99% of the hard work for the physical setups of rituals and events.
A true partnership.
Absolutely. He highlights their most important collaboration as being the miracle of the mass seminar they developed, and crucially, the creation of their tarot of ceremonial magic deck. There's a story there too. Constance, described as the fantastic artist, apparently hand-painted all 78 intricate line drawings in a miraculous 9 days just to get the deck ready to pitch at a convention.
9 days for 78 paintings? That's intense.
Right. It truly illustrates how even deeply personal relationships like marriage can be infused with magic and actively contribute to one's great work.
It certainly sounds like a marriage of true magical minds. This brings up a really relatable question for many of us, magician or not. Do I have to get a job? How does magic fit with mundane work? DuQuette addresses this directly. He notes that a magician's first task is often considered to master his or her immediate environment, which includes materially providing for oneself and family while still pursuing spiritual disciplines.
The age-old balancing act. How did he manage it?
Lon shares an absolutely incredible story about his years working sedentary desk jobs in the commercial real estate industry. It wasn't glamorous, but he found a way to make it work for his magic. He used his mundane typing skills and later what he calls the invisibility that often comes with working within large corporate structures to secretly write 6 books at work over a period of 9 years.
6 books while holding down a full-time job.
He kind of hid in plain sight. He even found that as he got older, his silver hair made him look incredibly distinguished and competent, which maybe helped him blend in and be left alone to focus on his true passion while still doing his required tasks. His honest work eventually grew to include handling large checks and wire transfers.
So he was trusted, but still managed to write on the side.
Apparently so. Then, in 2003, the company merged again, and he took what he calls early retirement to finally become a full-time Lon.
Good for him.
The implication for the listener here is really powerful. DuQuette believes that once you realize you are a magician, your perspective shifts. What you do for a living will no longer be just a job, he says. It will be a magic job. All aspects of your life become part of your magical practice.
The idea of a magic job is certainly transformative. It reframes the mundane completely. He and Constance even went through a period you mentioned of playing monastery at home, making their entire home a dedicated space for spiritual growth.
Yes, for about 3 years they intensified their personal disciplines in this way. Building on that concept, their daily monastery routine sounds quite structured and, well, intense. It started with a morning bell, followed by 2 to 3 hours of complete nonverbal communication. Just silence. He said this revealed how much of our daily chatter is completely useless.
I can imagine. What else did the routine involve?
Then came morning devotions. Constance would sense the house while projecting love, practice pranayama, those yogic breathing exercises read from inspiring desert island books, and consciously bless the world. Lon would perform banishing rituals, more pranayama, and chanting.
A very focused start to the day.
Definitely. Breakfast was eaten outdoors, weather permitting, and the silence was broken only by reciting the Thelemic meal blessing, will. It's a specific call-and-response dialogue used in Thelema, affirming the purpose of eating is to fortify the body to accomplish the great work.
Integrating intention even into meals.
Yes. And they also performed the Midnight Resh, one of 4 daily solar adorations in the Thelemic system, facing north and acknowledging Khifra, the ancient Egyptian scarab god representing the sun at midnight, rebirth, and transformation.
This disciplined lifestyle sounds like it could lead to significant changes. Did it tie into personal transformation for Lon?
It absolutely did. It ultimately connected to Lon's most significant personal transformation, tackling his lifelong struggle with obesity. He mentions he'd reached 310 pounds at one point, a condition exacerbated by childhood Perthes, hip disease, and a later back injury. He even describes his previous pattern of unhealthy habits almost like a counter-ritual that paradoxically also fueled a remarkably productive and creative period for him.
That sounds like a really complex dynamic, the struggle fueling the creativity.
It does, but what's truly striking here is the unlikely catalyst for change. It wasn't some divine revelation, but rather a mean-spirited and well-read magical blogger who attacked his weight quite viciously online.
Oh dear, that sounds awful.
It does, but Lon reframed it. This pathetic and hate-poisoned bully became, in Lon's narrative, an unexpected angel of truth, the omniscient voice of God, precisely because the blogger's insults echoed Lon's own words back at him. The only thing I can change with magic is myself.
Wow. Using the negative attack as a mirror.
Exactly. Despite the initial hurt, that confrontation finally pushed Lon to obey Constance, as he puts it, adopting her healthier diet and starting a consistent walking regimen. He ended up losing 150 pounds and has kept it off. For him, this physical transformation was a magical act, achieved, in his words, with divine assistance of an angel who loves me, Constance, and a perfectly unpleasant demon who hates my guts, the blogger.
That's a truly profound story of turning poison into medicine, using even negativity as fuel.
It really illustrates how challenges, even deeply unpleasant ones, can be powerful catalysts for profound personal magic. The takeaway seems to be that even perceived negativity can be a potent force for transformation if you choose to channel it correctly.
That's a really powerful example of personal alchemy. Beyond personal discipline, the DuQuettes also transformed their home into something else, a backyard mystery school, leveraging the power of magic as drama. You mentioned Alan Watts suggesting the world is a drama, and Shakespeare reminding us that imagination can amend even shadows.
Right. This connects directly to the DuQuette's long-standing tradition of staging elaborate, fully costumed OTO degree ceremonies and Gnostic masses right there in their home, starting back in 1978. They eventually expanded this into performing the rites of Eleusis, which are 7 ritual dramas written by Aleister Crowley, each focusing on the symbolism of a specific planetary god.
So actual theatrical performances as magical rites.
Exactly. And what's even more remarkable is that Lon created a homemade rite of earth himself. He assembled it, he says, from the ancient Homeric hymn to Demeter and passages from Crowley's works, creating an 8th rite to sort of ground the planetary series.
That's incredibly creative. How do they manage the staging in a regular house?
With ingenuity. They used their garage as the underworld, apparently utilizing the groaning garage door opener for the sound effect of the terrifying jaws of hell. Their backyard served for outdoor scenes. Simple elements were transformed. A red cloth became a toga. Plant stands served as temple columns. They even used an actual coffin someone gave them as a prop tomb at one point.
Resourceful.
Very. He says these performances were effectively master classes in magic, mythology, and astrology, profoundly impacting the participants and introducing magical concepts to a wider community in an engaging, dramatic way.
It really prompts the question for you, the listener. How could you use elements of drama, storytelling, art, or creative expression in your own life to embody your magical principles or explore deeper truths? It doesn't have to be a full play.
Even small creative acts can have power.
What a creative way to integrate their practice. Finally, the DuQuettes even have a unique tradition for New Year's Eve, their At the Gate of the New Year ritual. It sounds like a quiet oasis for partygoers, maybe neighbors or friends dropping by, offering a way station for reflection, and a bit of fortune-telling right there at home.
Yes, it's a lovely, simple ritual, apparently inspired by Constance's visit to temples in Japan. They set up 3 large china bowls on a stone bench near their entrance. One bowl contains pure water, another holds sand with a lit votive candle nestled in it, and the third is for offering coins. They also provide Japanese stick incense.
And what do guests do?
A simple sign instructs them. Purify your hands with water so you may receive peace. Light a stick of incense so you may receive freedom. Offer a coin so you may receive stability.
Peace, freedom, stability. Beautiful gifts to intend for the new year.
Aren't they? The simple, very accessible ritual offers these profound symbolic gifts for the coming year. It just seamlessly weaves a moment of magic into life's natural cycles, offering reflection, intention, and a meaningful interaction with the turning of the year.
It really shows how even a brief, simple act of mindful intention can bring deep meaning and connection.
Absolutely.
So we've taken quite a deep dive into Lon Milo DuQuette's world of homemade magic. We've discovered that magic, in his view, is fundamentally a personal journey. It's about self-transformation. It's found not necessarily in grand, inaccessible rituals, but right here in the intentional, conscious living of everyday life.
It's accessible through sincerity, self-awareness, and your own creative practice. It's all about recognizing and, in a way, elevating the extraordinary that's already hidden within the ordinary, transforming your entire life into a magical journey.
Absolutely. Which leads to a final thought to leave you with. If Lon Milo DuQuette can transform a suburban backyard, a beloved guitar, his mundane job, and even a frankly rude internet blogger into profound magical tools and transformative experiences.
What about you?
Exactly. What mundane aspects of your life are just waiting to be recognized and transformed into your own unique brand of homemade magic, maybe more immediately? What is one small, truly homemade step you can take today, right now, to begin living that magic more consciously?
The journey begins and ends with you. As DuQuette emphasizes, you are the magic.
Until next time, keep diving deep.